Hello all the crazy people out there, my name is Michael. I like wizards and dragons and making games, and we recently went through quite a lot to make NPC pathfinding work properly because there were some bugs that had been hanging out in the code for a while that had never been taken care of until I discovered them just now, and that was kind of a whole thing. Today we're going to be taking this, I would say, a step further, but it's probably honestly going to be easier than what we just did. And I do want to implement some kind of idle state for NPCs so that they can, to some limited degree, walk around on their own and they won't just be standing in position for all of eternity unless, like, something happens to them. So we can, let me see, come over here. Oh, you know what? I also, I need to make sure that this is working. I remember doing this, but I don't know if it was, like, 100% working or not. NPC character sprite collections. Anyway, NPCs walking around on their own. So, part of this is done, NPC pathfinding, and part of this is not done. That's going to be giving them this their idle state. And I just noticed that when you check off boxes in, like, the task list in cards, and it's not doing it now. Why is it not doing it now? The icon around, like, my user picture on the card, like, has a progress bar on it. Interesting. So, back to NPCs. Do NPCs have any kind of, like, behavior state? Yeah, it doesn't look like they do. And let's see, obj underscore entity, event inherited. Do you have a behavior state? Yes, you do. So, I can just go and grab myself a little, like, snow state structure for generic NPCs, and we can go and implement that over here, and that will be inherited through through the NPC object. This is sort of getting into the kind of, like, object-oriented inheritance spaghetti that I usually around now is when I start thinking about trying to make it cleaner, but GameMaker doesn't really give us that many tools to implement, like, components or anything without really bending over backwards for it, so I'm just going to live with it for now. Self.state equals new snow state. The default snow state is going to be idle, and then we can say add. This is going to be, and I have to check this every single time I implement snow state, but it's going to be, alright, a name and then a struct containing methods. We can do that. So the idle state is going to just basically not do anything of interest. Add walking random, and the walking random state is going to be possibly a little bit more interesting. And this is going to be enter function and an update function. And it is update, right? That is called when, yeah, alright, enter, leave, and update are kind of my three states here. Was there anything else I want to do to set this up? I would like to also just have a little timer. So that when you're in the idle state for a certain amount of time, you'll randomly transition to the walking random state. I cannot remember. Apparently that URL with like the link to partway down the page didn't work. There is a get time. Okay, so get time, and it set this to true to get it in microseconds versus in steps. Okay. Let's go back here. I don't actually need the enter state for this, do I? I just need if... Oh, you know what I kind of do? Because if, like, this is going to be an absolute time, and it won't stop if the player pauses the game or anything like that, so I probably don't... If the game is paused, I could say, like, set time and, like, unset... That's stupid. We're not going to do that. So, So we're just going to have a state that's like idle time if idle time is less than, I don't know, let's say 10 seconds for now. Or if it's greater than or equal to 10 seconds, self.state.change, walking random. And of course, we can update that when the update method is called. I will have code in here later on that will prevent all this from happening if the game is in, for example, like a pause state or something like that, or during a cutscene, something like that. But we're going to get to that later. So that is going to be our little transition into our random walk state. I think for a random walk, I will set target X is going to be something like X start plus random range between like negative like 40 and positive 40. Target Y is going to be largely the same thing for the Y start. So this is going to be a random value between our starting X and our starting Y rather than our current X or current Y. So the NPCs roughly stay in the same place. And we can use the get line of sight function that we implemented last time and say if we have a line of sight from our current X, current Y, you know what, X, Y, we are using the Z up, so we're really going to want X and Z here, and there is no built-in like Z star, so I'm gonna have to do that myself. So self X, self Y, self dot Z, target X, self dot Y, because that's gonna be hopefully on the same plane, and target Z. So if there is a line of sight, we're just gonna like pathfinding is going to equal an array of you know what? Let's use a proper vector 3 for this. Target X self dot Y target Z. And am I going to want to say like Y plus like 4 so that we're not we have that little bit of offset so that we're not like going through the floor. I did plus 8 here. Let's use plus 8 for consistency's sake. I wonder if that's why the get line of sight wasn't working when I did it in here, is because we were like cutting through the floor or something like that. But that's a future me problem. Anyway, if we have a line of sight, we will do this. Else self.state.change back to idle. And this should, and it's probably not because states never work on the first try, but this should give us, after about 10 seconds, okay, so you did move. We even saw the little line on the floor for the debug pathfinding location. And I don't think we're ever going to not move, because there's nothing within like a square with side length 80 of me right now that would block our location. Oh, you know what? You're not going to move again because you're never actually going back there. Like, you're never actually leaving the state. And we can say, is this going to be reset to undefined? It is going to be reset to undefined. So if this is undefined, that means you reach your target location. And that should actually reset you. So ultimately, I would like the actual movement code to go into at least a method that can be called from different states. Ten seconds. Ten more seconds. And I think now that this is basically working on its own, I think that's what I'm going to do now. So, NPCs can do random walk. Nox. NPCs can do random walk. Sort of. They're not going to do a true random walk in which they can, like, end up anywhere on the map. It might also be smart to, like, not let them randomly walk off cliffs, but I could also just not place them close to cliffs. Or probably more realistically, I could implement a, like, can random walk variable definition here. Random walk allowed. This can be, like, a Boolean, and that can default to true. And then we can say, like, if random walk allowed, then do this, otherwise you're just not going to do the random walk. And we can also define a variable definition for, like, the, not radius. I could do radius. I'm going to leave it as a square because I'm lazy. Random walk range. And I'm going to default that to 80. Actually, you weren't really going very far per step, so let's make it 100. I don't know exactly how far you're moving. It looked like you were only going, like, probably 10 or 20 world space units, but random walk range divided by 2. Actually, let's call that S, because I don't feel like typing that out 4 times. So now, NPCs can have their random walk behaviors slightly tuned. Anything else? The idle time, random walk. Frequency. And I think I'm going to actually reverse this. And instead of saying counting up our idle time, let's call this idle walk time. And this can be initialized to our random walk frequency. We can subtract dt from that, and now we can say if this is less than or equal to 0. And we can also take this a step farther and make this a little bit more random, so that the amount of time you wait between random movements is, you know, random, with a floor of like 1 or 2 or maybe like 3 seconds between idle walk steps. And that will allow us to control the specifics of your random walk in some more interesting ways. I don't know how long I want to sit here for watching you mostly do nothing at intervals of up to like 10 seconds at a time. Alright, so I think that's enough of that. We can commit this change. And what did I say I wanted to do after that? I've already forgotten. Oh, I think it was taking this and moving it into some sort of method. So, like pathfinding action or something like that. We can go just wholesale cut and paste this. I think I will just call it pathfinding action. So we have navigate to. Should I call it navigation action? That might be a better name. And we can control C and V this into where we want it to be. We will use the correct name over here. It might be better to actually stick that, like, X speed 0, Y speed 0 in there. How do I want to set this up? What am I likely going to use this for is really the question that I should be asking out loud when I do this. Because maybe this could go, and I'm undecided if this is going to fall under what I would often call, like, unnecessary abstractions. Because I do think it is extremely common to write abstractions that you don't actually need and don't actually make your code better, and arguably make it harder to read by doing stuff like this. And this possibly falls into that category, but for now, when you're in the idle state, navigation cancel. And when you are in... What did I call it? Navigation action. When you are in the random walk state, navigation action. And now, when we can just get rid of all of that from our step event. This now lives in our regular player state, our regular NPC state. This is not going to allow us to actually go anywhere when we hit enter. And now, when we say navigate, like, navigate to, we could say, give ourselves another state, and, we don't really need an update state here. We're not going to do any of the, like, generate random points or anything, but we will do the thing where we take a navigation action, and if we've reached the end, we're going to go back to our idle state there. And then we can, when we navigate to somewhere, we can just go into that state. And that is also, let's see, that will not allow us to, you're not going anywhere. Why? That will allow us to, if this is working correctly, not try to have our navigation and our random walk states fighting all the time. Why isn't this working now? I should also probably, like, reverse this order so that if you try to go into the navigation state but you don't actually have a path, like, things won't crash. In this one, it's mostly fine, because we are definitely going to set a path that we can walk in our random walk enter. But, let's see. Why was that not working? We are actually, like, carrying that out, right? I'm going to show debug message, not just like an exclamation mark or something, but the current time value so that I can see that it actually, like, changes. And it seems that we are not actually in there. So what I mean by changes is that, like, if I get a bunch of exclamation marks flooding the console, I want to see that, like, we are continuously being in the navigation state and we're not just, like, we didn't flood a bunch of, like, symbols at the beginning and then stop. Why are we not actually in here? So pathfinding is not undefined. Right? It seems that I'm not misspelling this, am I? I copied and pasted that, but it seems that we're not actually running this, and I don't know why. There's no other state.change in here. NPC begins to... I was just looking at this, wasn't I? So we are executing our state. I think I can close that. That was relevant a little while ago. How about, instead of doing that, so, like, it's definitely generating the path because it's drawing the line on the floor. There's no other place where we could, like, return early for some reason. I don't think. I feel like every time I do something with states, there's something, like, completely and unfathomably stupid that happens that prevents this from working, and it's always completely avoidable, and I absolutely hate doing it, but, alright, fine, we'll put our debugging boots on and actually set a breakpoint here. So, that breakpoint was not being hit. Why is that breakpoint not being hit? If I set the breakpoint up here, it should do it, right? It's not doing it. Am I in the wrong event? This is obj underscore NPC. Let's put the breakpoint here. It's generating the path. Why is it? So we're gonna go into. I'm gonna jump over that. Oh, it's because it's up here. See, that's what I mean. Unfathomably stupid. That is the sort of thing that I should not have to debug, but I constantly run into this sort of stupid. Like, I was looking for return statements and I just didn't see that one. I highlighted the return statement with the cursor in the text editor and I just didn't see that one. Like, there's absolutely no reason for me to have problems like this, and I just do. And it doesn't matter what I'm doing. Whenever I'm dealing with, like, NPC AI or enemy AI or anything like that, it just happens. And I'm not getting that 10 minutes of my life back. Where is this? So this is line 96. Okay, so this looks like... This looks like it should have been dealt with by this. It sources from line 160. I could just say if array length equals 0, then we'll unset it. But we're already doing that, like, here. Oh, you know what? I know why. It's because I need a return after that, because this code will keep running. Okay. We're also going to do that down in the other one. Now, if you run this, you should be able to get to the end of your path, and you are going to not crash anything when you do that. That's great. And if I wait a couple of seconds, the random walk should take over after somewhere between 3 and 10 seconds. That was actually a much longer random walk than you were doing before. Interesting. All right. Okay, so I think we can finally have that wrapped up. Navigation states. Various navigation states. We can also go and check this off because we're done with this. And characters using sprite collections, I think, is the last thing that I wanted. So, where actually is your sprite coming from? Because this video has been going on about 20 minutes. I hope this doesn't take too long. This was a whole system that I rigged up for Wizarducks character sprite collections in their various states and stuff. Where are you being drawn? I guess we'll start with that. So, alright, you're just calling your draw event. You're not doing anything indirect here. So we've got our character sprites, and our character sprites are defining some of these. These have frames of animation, right? They're just not being used. Okay. I'm not going to engineer this quite as hard as I did in actual Wizarducks, but where we are grabbing our character sprites, there might or might not be different sprites that you need for different states. We will address that at a future date. But our character, our draw sprite, we don't have a sprite index, and we should probably be using our sprite index for that. I'm not using actual, like, GameMaker sprite index, so I also can't just use image index for this, but should I? Would that make my life easier? I've seen people, so in like older versions of GameMaker, this didn't work as well, but I think GameMaker actually added a couple of ways of making sprite image speed a little bit easier to work with, because you can now define your sprites sprite speeds in frames per second or frames per frame. So if I were to bump that down to like 10 FPS, that's still a little fast, but like 8 FPS, 6 FPS or something like that maybe. I think that's a decent walk speed. We could take all of these, and I'm thinking we could set our frames per second to 6, and that should work for all of them. How about... We can take at least some of this and move this also into the state system. Or at least move it into like an object method here. And so we can set our character sprites. We could look at our current angle. We're not going to do any silly matrix build here because this is kind of... like, we're only interested in figuring out the sprite index. And we can say self.sprite index equals current sprite. And we could say if sprite index is not equal to current sprite, we could image index equals 0. We could reset our image index. And I think also we'll make the sprite collection a parameter. We could get rid of that reference. And now, in, for example, our various NPC states, we could say, we could just say set sprites, character sprites duck. We might also, I need a comma there, we might also say, set our image speed. Can I use speed as a function parameter? There's some built-in variables like x, y that you can use as function parameters, and then there's others that you can't, and I don't know what the full list is off the top of my head. Anyway, we can say animation speed is animation speed right there. I could give this a default value of 0. But I would rather avoid default values for stuff like this. I would rather make things like this explicit so that, like, if I change something later on down the line, I don't accidentally forget to change the default value. I feel like that happens more often than not. So anyway, when you're in the idle state, we could set our animation speed to 0 using our regular duck sprites. In the navigation state, we can set that to 1, so when your image speed is set to, like, image frames per second, the image speed will behave as a multiplier on top of that, rather than, like, an absolute update value. And when you're in the random walk state, we can also do that. And now, we are going to not worry about all of this. We're going to delete all the stuff that we didn't delete when we changed things a minute ago. Current sprite is just going to be, you know, I bet I can just say draw self, and that'll be good enough. And before all this runs, self.state.sprites. Alright, I feel like this actually might work on the first try. So you are not animating. If I have you walk, you really are taking off. I know why draw self didn't work there. It is because we are putting the XY values into your vertex locations, and that is conflicting with the matrix build because you are now adding your XY on top of the matrix build, which is not what you want. So we're gonna say draw sprite manual way. Sprite image, sprite index, image index 0, 0. If you wanted to still use draw sprite, you could, like, set the x and y to 0 before drawing. But before drawing the draw self, and then you could set your X and Y to whatever they were previously afterwards, but that's stupid. We're not going to do that. So, interesting. So, when viewed from behind, you're not actually setting your direction, so, like, you're kind of, like, walking backwards and sideways like a crab. But the sprite animation works. So in Wizarducks and the Lost Hat, I am not using image index like this because I didn't know that GameMaker had made those changes to the way that image index and image speed works, which would have made my life easier. So I did kind of have to hack together a whole separate image frame system to make image index work nicely like this, which wasn't a lot of fun. And I'd rather not have to do that. In future games, I will not be doing that. It's probably too late to change it now because I'd have to really rewrite a whole bunch of code, and it's mostly already working. But I would recommend using image index and image speed like this in modern GameMaker. That is advice that might not have been true in like really old versions, but regardless, it is now, and it does actually save me a lot of trouble. What else? So the direction. I think what I really need is to set the direction. So when we are moving, our direction is simply going to be. Alright, we are not doing anything with direction in any NPC code, so, navigation action. So I guess I can just, like, toss this in navigation action and say, like, direction equals point direction 0, 0, dx, dz. And I think that might be the only change here I need to make. Alright, so you did appear to be walking forward, you changed directions, and you're walking backward. Okay. That is a one line of code fix. I wish more of my problems could be a one line of code fix. It seems that the angles were slightly wrong, though, because I did see you, like, walking, like, sort of sideways, like that. So I think the angles might be wrong, but it seems that the direction logic is actually working. Oh, you know what? That makes sense. When you do a long navigation, I should probably have in navigation and reset your X start and Z start. And maybe Y start for that matter, but we're not using that. I don't know why sometimes you are presented as facing the wrong direction. I'm wondering if that's because whatever your direction relative to the camera is. Can I say angle difference? Would angle difference help? So, like, in this case, the source difference would be... The source angle would be our direction, and the destination angle would be this direction value here. And would it be easier to say, like, this, use that angle difference value? I don't think that actually did it. Alright, I'm gonna leave that alone now. That is a cosmetic thing, and it's a fairly minor cosmetic thing. Like, if I were to ever polish this up and put it on Steam, obviously I would fix this. I'll leave a comment about that. You know what I should probably also do is I should probably also throw this on the Codecks technical debt board, but that's going to be good enough for now. And as I also said, in the navigation, when you leave the state, we will want you to reset your X previous and Z previous, and also I guess Y previous because we're here. I mean start, not previous. Let's try that again. And that will cause them to behave in their random walk as if, like, they are going to random walk around the location where they ended up instead of back their location at the beginning. Because that would be a problem. Okay. We'll wait a couple of seconds. And you're just going to do a random walk here. Okay. I think that's going to be it for now. And I'm going to say this is going to be 0.48. So that's going to be what we got done this week. Let me go and check this off. We can finish that. And I think... Oh, I also said let's go back and bugs, maintenance, and technical debt. One of them was when NPCs walk around, sometimes their visual direction is wrong. Probably use angle difference instead of calculating it yourself. And oh, you know what might have been the problem is that in addition to doing angle difference here, I would also want to do it in here because that's where we set our sprites. Should I try that now? Angle equals angle difference between that angle and this angle. No more mod 180. I'm just gonna try that now. If this works, it works. If it doesn't work, I'll put it on the board for some future me to deal with. It does not work from that direction. All right, so it was working better before, so we won't touch that. And I will log it as a task for later. And the other thing that I thought about, this might have been in the last video, the other thing that I thought about was when you navigate, if you have a line of sight to a future waypoint, how do I add a new one? Add card. So there's a related one. I forget if I brought this up, but there's a related problem to that, which is that, like, if something does get in the way, I think I talked about this. If something does get in the way, for example, a door closing. It doesn't have to happen immediately. Things like not running entity AI in every step is a pretty common optimization to spread that sort of thing out over multiple frames. And it also does give the illusion of NPCs and enemies and whatever having reflexes that are finite. But like if, say, once a second the NPC recalculates their path to see if an object is moved, to see if there's a faster path to their destination, that would probably be ideal. Same thing for like enemies if they're like chasing you and if you go somewhere where they would have to change their direction and recalibrate their path. But that's going to be something that we do in the future. So, mind read type spell. Did I do that? Is that not in my hand already? Pretty sure I did that. I did want this to be the end of NPC videos, so I may drag out the end of this just a little bit. Mind read spell That's the Wizarducks project. That's not Wizards. The other Wizards. OBJ spell mind read. So we've got the speech bubble here. I'm pretty sure I did this already. So if I were to cast a spell on you, yes, I did do it already. Okay. We've got, did I really use that as the example? It's been so long I can't remember, but that's going to be our mind read spell. Fun. So that is it for NPCs. That's very exciting. I've been procrastinating this for like a solid year. Whereas there's somewhere in here there's like metrics, right? I doubt the burn darn chart is going to show anything useful because it's like I did kind of take like a 1.5 year hiatus from this. Okay, so we actually do have a non-zero velocity now. So that might just be because within the span of today I got enough stuff done that it calculated something. I wish I could zoom out on this chart so that I could actually see it over the last like 2.5 years since I started this. But if I say like 5 or 10 effort points per week, where's that going to leave us? It's still not going to leave us finishing any day soon. But you know what? Now that I finally had time to sit down and fix the problems that we were seeing before, I would like to actually start making progress on this on a, if not week by week, at least month by month basis. So that's fun. Next time, we are going to move on to cutscenes, everyone's favorite. I made a couple of videos on like Chatterbox and stuff recently, or NPCs in general. We are going to add Scribble, definitely, next video. I don't know how long configuring it's going to take. I don't think it's going to take that long. We will plug it into things like the mind read text. Actually, let me make that a card here. Make Scribble used in mind read text. And that's also going to be, let's say, priority, medium, effort, 1. It's not going to be hard. We are going to toss that in the hand next time. And I also would like to add Chatterbox configuration next time. I don't think we're going to have time next time to actually, like, go all the way and like make cutscenes happen because that's going to take a lot of work, but we'll get it set up anyway, and I will start handing all of these that relate to that. I think going up to probably showing text on screen, and that's gonna be the next couple weeks work of things that we do. So there are a couple of things like fake shadows and pulley systems that I haven't gotten to yet that have been sitting there since forever. Pulley systems, I'm debating if I want to do it because I don't feel like doing largely the same thing as the seesaws again, and fake shadows are a whole thing because I'm lazy and I want to move on to other things, but that's what we'll be doing next time. So, my name is Michael. I like Wizards and Dragons and making games. You should all go check out Wizarducks and the Lost Hat, which is one of the games that I like to work on when I'm not doing YouTube stuff. Link to the Steam page can be found down below. I do like to make videos on all kinds of weird stuff you can do in Game Maker, so if videos on 3D stuff or shader stuff or anything else appeal to you, feel free to subscribe. I have a Patreon, so if you want to contribute to the channel, links to that can be found in all the usual places. I hope you all found this interesting, and I will see you all later. Special thanks to Zenjamin, Squarecrow, Spy Die Games, Pixelated Pope, Manta Ray, Game Maker, Game Art Indie, Edward Holt, DJ Gibbles, and Gamedev for supporting these videos. If you want to contribute to the channel, head on over to the Patreon page down in the video description.